Call the meeting to order. First item on the list is we have a new employee in Enid. Having a wing
Catch him reading
commander, and he's
paper.
been on the job for 30 hours. Colonel Corey Simmons. Simmons, isn't
It
it?
is, sir.
Welcome to Enid.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here.
Say a couple of words about your family.
Sure. Colonel Corey Simmons, originally from Louisville, Kentucky. My bride, Dawn, and my 4 kids, Drew, Emily, Shelby, and Luke, moved into town a week ago Saturday. Had been welcomed with open arms, not just because I'm a wing commander, but because I'm a military person moving to Enid. I purposely didn't say to folks that I was the wing commander, and I'm so glad I did, because it just proved what I already had heard, and that this place is pretty amazing. I've got my dream job as running the wing advance, so my promise to the community and everybody here is that you'll get my best every single day. We're tickled to death to be here. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And the commission enjoyed the time earlier today, so thank you.
Very glad you're here.
Thanks, boss. Appreciate it.
We always get good colonels.
All right. Well, I'll try not to ruin that reputation.
You won't. You won't. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
It's a noisy cat there.
The invocation this evening will be given by Andrew Long, minister at the First Presbyterian Church. And Tammy, would you lead us in the flag salute afterwards, please?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. If it is your custom, would you bow your heads with me? Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, I ask your blessings on the people who have been called to lead this community that we call home. And I ask your blessings on all who live and work and play here. As this commission discusses, deliberates, and debates this evening, help them to ask questions like, what do we need to learn? And how might we change? And to whom do we need to listen? Give them a keen thirst for justice and righteousness. Tune their hearts to the welfare and true needs of the people. Show them how to work together when there's honest disagreement, and give them peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. Remind us today and always, O God, that we are indeed tied together in one single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality where whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. May all of our words and actions be said and done according to your good will. I pray these things in the name of Jesus Christ and in the spirit of wisdom, truth, and goodness. Amen.
Join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular commission meeting of July the 3rd, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ron, second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. It's up here behind you.
Got it. I'm in.
Item 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
Oh, it's a cat.
Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Charlotte Ringwald. I'm the adoption coordinator at Enid Animal Control. And tonight, I have my little friend, Cam Meow, and she is a 2-month-old domestic short hair. She's female, and she's currently in Pen 3. She'll be available later this week. We've got lots of dogs and cats available that need a good home. So if you know anybody who wants to expand their family, come out and visit us at the shelter. Do you want to say something? All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Item 5.2, update from Mike Cooper. Mike, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Chief told me again to be brief, so I'll try to be brief.
Not again.
I don't want to get in trouble with the chief. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, it's good to be here. First off, though, we're so glad. I'm sorry I missed the change of command, but look forward to working with the new colonel. So we look forward to that. So, Mr. Simmons here in town. So, to start off with, state level. As you know, we passed the airspace protection bill, the one dealing with wind turbines, so we've been going around educating many people as we can, including the Corporation Commission, on the process, how that'll work. I also, last week, went and met with Colonel Simmons' boss, General Doherty, to discuss that issue and other issues related to Vance. And as you all heard yesterday at his change of command, we're going to be training unheard of numbers here at Vance Air Force Base. And it ties in directly with, and sir, you'll get briefed on this more, but the way the Enid and the Oklahoma effort work is we work with our community, our state, and our federal congressional delegation to make things happen. Before, it was really centered mainly around infrastructure, quality of life. Now we center all of the dollars and effort that we do. If there's a way for the community, state, and congressional delegation to help the Air Force increase mission capability, reduce costs, then we're going to do that. When one of the items was the extended length of the runway out there, gives you all, we're not Air Force, don't pretend to be, but gives you options there that we think is important. So General Doherty certainly thanked us for all those efforts. I was able to brief him because he had not seen all the activity at Vance, starting with the joint use hangar that we did previously. And then, of course, one thing led to another, the extended runway. Then we had another problem. We had so many planes running out there that we had to build a parking apron, so we did that. And now we're going to move to improve and replace the terminal. One thing at the state level, before I get into the federal level stuff and what we discussed down at Randolph, the Military Planning Commission meets this Thursday, and we'll be able to vote and pass an additional probably $156,000 to that project that we've already given $156,000 to previously. So that'll be kind of the state's portion of that, which at the end of the day, for the Air Force use, we want to have it made just like when your folks, your men and women, get off a plane and they go debrief in their room. We want that set up just like that. So when they land, spend the night or whatever, they can go in there and act just like they would at Vance. So that's our intent to do that, and that's why the state feels like that we should participate in that, and we will. So we're excited about that. At the federal level and at Randolph, I also discussed with General Doherty our off-site infrastructure plan, because as we talked about before, the military has scored military installations on water resiliency. And so I briefed him on where we were at on that, that you've passed your sales tax, you've got that going on well down the road. I think, and I know your engineers are going to put percentage on water usage of Vance. It's probably around 15 to 20% of overall water usage, much like the wastewater treatment was about 20 to 25%. I think it's less than that, but we'll have an understanding of what that is. And Colonel, as you know, they passed the sales tax upwards of $360 million to do a permanent water source from Enid, a pipeline to Call Lake, which sits up on the Kansas-Oklahoma border. What we've done, because most of these projects that we do, and especially off-site type infrastructure in a community, these are things that for the long-term viability of the military installation, you have to have water. You need things like alternative energy. You want to be off the grid and things like that. Roads, there's a lot of different things that off-site infrastructure that helps you be able to do the job that you do. So with that in mind, what I've been working on through the Association of Defense Communities that I was president of for 3 years, we're kind of the organization that works for communities and states to put forward things in the Defense Authorization Bill that would help communities and states help you. So what we added in the Defense Authorization Bill, first in the House, worked with Mac Thornberry and Adam Smith, majority minority leaders in the House, to add language that provided a program I think it's probably 20 or 25 years is what the House version says, that there'll be a process where states and communities, if they put in at least 30% of the project, then that doesn't mean they get 70% funding. It means that they have access to dollars to assist with those type of projects. Of course, with Enid, because we've already passed this project under that model, we certainly are well there. We talked about the NEPA and the environmental processes that have to be done before you could even be considered. So the Secretary, and so we get that in the House version of the Defense Authorization Bill. Then we work Senate, and there were few different senators that we worked with to make sure we had the language. Certainly briefed Inhofe on it, but he wasn't the one that dropped the language down in the bill because he didn't want to be the lead person on it. But so we got it in the Senate version as well. So what, as you know, the likelihood of that making it in conference is very high. So the next thing that we've been working on last week and this week is working with Senator Moran. I've been working with him out of Kansas. He more than likely will be the one that will drop the $36 million initially in year one. They're going to put $36 million, probably do 3 or 4 projects. So that means that the ones that get approved initially are probably going to get around $10 million. And naturally, they want to show that this works, that this program does work, and it's money. It would come from the SecDef's pot of money, but I'm not exactly where on the defense bill for him, but anyway, that would come out. These are dollars that really not just the Air Force, but Army, Navy, and others need to do things like this. But this is a way to. It's similar, if you remember the infrastructure bill that was. It's not going to happen this year, but next year. And so the thought was to leverage state dollars with federal dollars, public, private money to make things happen. So we had to work with the president's, the White House policy team to get them convinced to go down this road to take defense dollars and do this because they didn't want to take away from defense. It's been so hard to get dollars put in. And as you know, they've increased the defense spending. So the way we were able to sell it to them was we want it much like the infrastructure bill that you've tried to get passed, in that we're going to take those dollars, leverage them against state and community dollars to make more things happen. So that's why they're on board with it as well. So I think we're well on the way to getting that done. I think by the end of this week, we're going to have the funding in place to do that. The Office of Economic Adjustment, as I told all of you before, would more than likely be the entity. They're the link between the Defense Department and states and communities. So if they are the entity that would have oversight of this grant, so the grant request from the communities and state would come to them, then the recommendations from the SecDef and his folks, the Secretary of Defense, would then look at those grant requests and see which ones that are more important for them initially to get done. Plus, it's going to be the group will be narrowed somewhat because you got to have 30 to 40%. Into the game. You need a certain percentage of engineering. You got this NEPA process that we're all in the middle of that, so it would certainly put you ahead for first year capability. So doesn't mean that it will absolutely happen, but that's what we're doing. So again, I've been coordinating all that discussion between House and Senate, the Defense Department, and OEA. So we're thinking that this is going to happen pretty quick. So if so, then that certainly helps us get done. But the other thing that when I met with General Doherty was to discuss MILCON, because as you know, you wouldn't know this yet, but since '95 to now, we've through earmarks and congressional ads, about $300 million worth of infrastructure improvements have happened out of Vance. And of course, you can't now do earmarks at the moment. They're considering adding a process similar to that back in. But what we've asked, because we know you have certain requirements like the consolidated ops, squadron ops facility, and different things that you have. I know you're doing through O&M the middle runway, and that's good. But the way we help, or the only way we can at the moment, our congressional delegation has asked that, number one, we either have a regular budget item in the president's budget. Of course, that's an easy thing, but well, it's easier. But the other thing is, and we haven't had one of those in about 30 years, so our senator would always say, well, it's time. But the other way is that if you have a project that's needed and required, and I know that Quad Ops is, if it's in the 5-year plan, then two things can happen. One, we can either have it considered somehow, or in the unfunded requirements that they come up with every year. And if it comes somewhere in the top 10 of those, then eventually, you know, at the end of the year, if they have money and it's in the 5-year plan, it's in the, you know, the unfunded requirement list, then we can, you know, our delegation has the ability to possibly bring those forward. Again, it doesn't mean that they happen, but it's an easier way for us to help you on MilCon. So he said that he would look at that, because I know we don't currently have something in the FIDEP. So, and then on the airspace protection effort, again, he thought that it was important. He'll probably set up a meeting with myself and base leadership, some community leadership that are key to him, say at Shepherd, Altus, and Vance, to go over exactly the requirements of that bill and how we want to work with them to make, you know, 100% communication happen between the wind industry and you. And also, when it's no, and we have to understand what those reasons are, because we back up what they say. And again, the FAA and the Siting Clearinghouse appreciate that the state of Oklahoma is going to back up what you say, so, and what they recommend. So anyway, unless anybody's got any questions, that's kind of my update for tonight.
Question?
Okay, well, again, we look forward to working with the next best, greatest wing commander,
Right.
Colonel Simmons.
That's right.
Thank you, Mike. Item 6, administration. Item 6.1, consider a resolution amending the 2018-2019 airport fund budget by appropriating additional funds in the amount of $2,500,000 to increase the 2018-2019 appropriated amounts for the airport department.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. This is another time that you're seeing the same numbers.
Pull the mic a little closer. Or, there you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
And this is a companion item to 6.2, 7.3, and 9.1. This appropriation provides the funding to award the construction contract for the terminal building. And this will be paid from the Airport Fund Airport Department, private donations, the grant funding from OAC, FAA, and the Military Planning Commission, and also a revenue transfer from EMA. Any questions?
Questions?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Ron, second by George. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 6.2, consider approval of Amendment 14 to the owner-engineer agreement dated April 2013, CEC Corporation, formerly Cobb Engineering, to provide FAA grant administration for the construction of the new terminal building at the Enid Woodring Regional Airport in the amount of $8,400, and authorize the mayor to execute all contract documents.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben. Second. Second by George. Discussions, comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good job, Ono.
Thank you, Ono. Item 6.3, consider approval of amendment number 1 to the professional engineering services agreement with Poe and Associates, Inc., Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, for design updates to North Cleveland Street, Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad to Willow Road, Garfield County, project number R-1803A, and authorize the mayor to execute all contract documents.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Jonathan.
Mayor, there is one issue I think I would like to address on the amendment, if you would allow me to.
Okay.
I think the amendment itself is pretty straightforward for amending the contract. It doesn't increase the cost, it actually sets aside some costs and reduce some hydraulics. But I want to make sure that, and if I can, I'm going to go to the example, make sure the commissioners are aware of what this change does. The existing project by Pone Associates to design Cleveland Street from the railroad tracks to Willow Road, as shown on my map up here. We've highlighted in green. Willow Road is shown running across the top portion of the map. You can see Cleveland running north and south. Also identified Rolling Oaks Detention just to the south and to the left. And from your side onto the east is Willow Road Detention, which has been in place for some time. What I want to point out is the plan as developed in taking the drainage down Cleveland Street would require a drainage channel improvement along Cleveland Street, a couple of significant boxes for the driveways that are existing there, box get back across Cleveland Street, and then a structure to get it across the railroad, the Burlington Northern Railroad. And since that would require, those drainage structures would require a box structure, that would require relocating the railroad tracks to allow for construction and then moving those back, building the shoe fly, as they call it. Just an example of the right-of-way required for that drainage structure is about 105 feet from the section line, a little more than we usually need for roads, but needed for this drainage. And there's some cost factors. What I want to get into, is that what that change would require is taking the drainage, and I've highlighted the similar area here, but the basins, drainage basins, the one to the north, which is shown as 410A, and the one shown as 410B are the two drainage basins that go to and drain across south and across the railroad crossing. This amendment would take that out, which means there would be a need for a project to build a channel from Cleveland to take that north basin to the east into the existing channel that feeds the Willow Detention, and a project to enlarge that Willow Detention. It'd take 7 to 10 acres of additional, it'd take about 7 acres of detention, which is about 10 acres of acquisition probably, to provide for mitigating that impact. But what it would do would move this north drainage basin from going south to going east. And that could create some concern from some other property owners. What the advantage of it is, and I'm going to go back in a little bit and cover that, is our projection of cost numbers for the improvement project carrying the drainage, and this is not the road improvement cost, this is just the drainage improvement costs. It covers the additional right-of-way costs, channel improvements, and the multiple boxes that I talked about, and dealing with the right-of-way, the railroad relocation. And we'll point out, the railroad relocation would be required to have the railroad engineers heavily involved. Actually, they would probably be involved with the design of the box, and certainly with moving and placing the tracks back. So additional costs there as well. But the cost to relocate the tracks back is estimated at $2 million plus. We really don't feel comfortable in being able to, at this point, address that cost. The other impact is on schedule. We could go ahead and acquire the right-of-way in 2019 as on schedule, but we're really concerned it would affect the schedule for doing the roadway improvement, the channel improvement, or could it all be based on the scheduling with the railroad to do issue fly, move the tracks over and back? It can be done. We just don't know what that schedule would be at this point. So to get to, in the summation of the amendment, the amendment only doesn't change the contract. It leaves a not to exceed contract in place. We are setting aside about $24,000 of savings in hydraulic work for if we have other needs. And it would reschedule the right-of-way plans to be provided in in August 31. Would delay them about a month. We actually have the current plans pretty well drafted on hand, but if we want to proceed that way, but we'd have to rerun those plans. And it would provide for getting the final plan, or the 90% plans in September. At that point, we would go to the ODOT for review of the plans before we can go to 100%. But that would be our kickoff point to go to ODOT and go for a final review. So the results are it would improve the control of cost Some cost savings, I believe, are there, but we would really we would be controlling those costs instead of depending on the railroad costs. It would put a schedule in our control instead of putting it into the railroad's control, and it would eliminate a railroad relocation, which is substantial cost, and it would help mitigate the impact on the Waller detention site or the Waller School site. It won't solve that problem by itself, but it would reduce the impact on that. So that's the advantages. I just wanted to be sure that everybody was aware that what it would do is move water off of this site over into the Willow detention, and we would require to make some improvements there to handle that. With that, the amendment is before you for approval. Thank you.
So when you made the statement about there being a concern by some property owners, were you referring to Waller, or are we talking about other entities that are concerned?
I don't know if there's any concerns from property. I'm sure the property owner that we'd have to acquire some right-of-way for the detention facility and for the channel. I'm sure there'd be concerns there, but I think those are minor. I think it just may be from residents in general because you're taking water off of Cleveland and moving it over into another detention facility, another direction. We have to reroute it to another detention facility. Now, we need to improve that detention facility, enlarge it to mitigate that impact. So we would mitigate that impact. But I just wanted, that needs to be a conscious decision that we're making to do that. That's why I just wanted to present it, to make sure everybody knew exactly what the plan would do. I think it gives us control on our schedule. It reduces the cost and helps us control the costs. We will still have to invest in the dorm storm drainage system in the Willow detention, but that's still a more cost-effective solution than rerouting the railroad tracks. I certainly support, but it could have generated concern.
Robert, part of this money will be spent, just as you said, studying that. And so if there are issues that come up with the plan you're talking about, certainly we bring those back to the commission. I think what Robert's trying to say is you've already seen what happens when schedules are in the hands of the railroad. And so this would be much more significant than crossing lights and arms.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind is we, as engineers, really like to do our work in accordance with our master drainage plan. And this is outside of that. Not that we're changing the master drainage plan. It's just for cost and schedule control, it makes more sense to us to take this out of this region, basin, and move it into another one.
Questions? Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
We have a motion, we have a second. Questions, comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 6.4, an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 5, Public Safety, Chapter 5, General Offenses, Article 8H, Section 5-5H-1, Drugs and Related Substances, to remove unnecessary definitions, revise the definition for marijuana, lower the fine for possession of marijuana, and remove drug paraphernalia offenses, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, codification, and declaring an emergency.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ben, second by Jonathan. Further discussion, comments? Please cast your vote. Motion carries.
I move the emergency.
Motion carries 7-0. We need an emergency. Motion by Ben, second by Tammy. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 7, consent items.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben to approve.
Second.
Second by George. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8, we will now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. All of the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority are in attendance. Item 10, the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 10.1, consider a resolution increasing the 2018-2019 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Municipal Authority and authorizing a transfer out of the airport fund in the amount of $1,350,000.
To approve?
Motion by George,
Second.
second by Ben. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 10.2, consider resolution authorizing submission of letter of interest to our Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, for funding through the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act Wi-Fi program. Motion by Tammy. Second by Derwin. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 10.3, approval of claims in the amount of $57,773.54.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Jonathan, second by George. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 11, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item 12, all of the trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting are in attendance. Item 13, the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 13.1, approval of claims in the amount of $4,210.78.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Tammy, second by Derwin. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. We will now adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item 15, public comments. We have one person signed up. Diane?
Diane Levesque, 1324 West Oak Avenue, also known as Monarch Larvae Monitoring Project Site 2519. I believe I signed that up on the sign-up sheet exactly that way, because we've arrived at the time of year when I'm certainly going to run into 6s and 7s with the code department over mowing, having to do with the fact that, as I've previously mentioned, I am now a milkweed seed producer, and I wanted to make y'all aware that I have 2 rare varieties. That would be red ring Asclepias variegata and purple milkweed Asclepias purpurescens. And I wanted to bring to your attention that I've also additionally registered with Okies for Monarchs, and if you've been paying attention to PBS this weekend, you know that Okies for Monarchs was a featured story in Oklahoma News Report. So, yeah, the ordinance being what they are and the code department being what it is, I need to speak to the people who set the ordinances about, I don't know, an exemption or some sort of permit or whatever, but I wanted to bring up what I brought up last time in terms of mowing and there being a problem with the prospects of my getting my face ripped off by a neighborhood pit bull. There are some folks who, by their association with the City Commission, seem to feel that they are exempt from city laws and ordinances, leash laws in particular. And I mentioned what I've heard about a contractor with the city committing vandalism on adjacent properties when they have been given permission to clear out somebody's land that is in arrears of a cleanup. But I wanted to bring your attention to something that happened, and that is an overweight semi-tractor trailer that made its way from the north side of Polk, North Polk, going southbound, but not without stopping at an address at 1304.5 West Oak. That's the address is on West Oak, but it's along Polk. It is a topless, fully loaded semi-tractor trailer driven by an employee of T&J Demolition, 514 East Hackberry, U.S. Dot number 2164 813. There's no demolition projects going on Polk Avenue, and it's my understanding that the violation of, or the ordinance that provides for truck routes provides exemptions for people who need to deliver goods. There's no goods deliveries of some demolition products that showed up on Polk Avenue. There was personal business conducted at that address by the driver thereof. So if you're all worried about what you're doing for road maintenance and all, you might want to consider who has friends on the city commission or in city employment to be not above the law that the rest of us are. And with that, I will say, I know I have no friends in City Hall, but I'm here to say that I can be proud of that fact, because the people who have friends in City Hall cannot be. They're above the law so far.
Thank you. Item 16, we are adjourned.
Thank you for joining us for the Enid City Commission meeting. All meetings are broadcast on local cable channel 12 and in high definition on channel 112. In addition, the council meeting is live streamed on the web at enidtv.org. If you have any questions or comments regarding this broadcast, please visit the City of Enid website at enid.org.